Hello, world. This is Artego. Hey, Nicole. Um, what I'm about to share with you, many of you are ready to receive it. There'll be some who are going to look at me crazy, but whatever. I'm self aware, meaning I knew where I was before I was born or physical, and I know where I'm going after my physical body no longer exists. It's home, and one day soon I will choose to go back. But before I do so, I wanted to fulfill a promise that I made to the one that you would call Jesus or have been told that the name is Jesus. I know him as Yesu because that's what he told me his name was. And one of the things he said to me is, one of my greatest regrets is that I did not tell my own story. Will you tell it for me? And I said, yes. So he sat with me and I wrote a book, and it's called Return of the Messiah, the Book of Jesus. Um, and please note that I am by no means a Christian. I am likely one of the furthest things away from a Christian, um, besides the aspect of love. But, anyways, I'm about to read a chapter from the book. It is called Chapter 6. And let me see what it says. Okay, it's Chapter 6, The Mother of Jesus. So, I don't know how I should explain it. Okay, so when this whole experience was happening, when I was having these interactions with Yesu, I was curious to what his mother was like. And when the curiosity came to my mind, so did she. Um, and I recorded the experience, but she told me about her life and about how Yesu was born. So I'm going to share that chapter about the mother of Jesus. Her name is Dechanna. I spell it Dechanna. And this is chapter 6. Dechanna, the mother of Jesus. She was exceptionally different. She was one of the shyest people you would ever meet, but when she spoke, your mind would pause and you'd almost be mesmerized. She spoke with such authenticity and truth that you couldn't help but to listen. Even if you couldn't understand why, you were at a loss for words. She grew up in Galilee with her mother and 3 sisters. Her father had passed away when she was 13 years old. She was the apple of his eye, and he adored her. He adored her because she wasn't cruel like her sisters or bitter like her mother. When her father passed is when she began to disassociate herself from her family. Her sisters would tease her because she was quiet, and her mother would treat her like a slave. The older Dechanna got, the older Dechanna got, the more beautiful she became. She had the beauty of a goddess with a heart to match. Her skin shimmered with a bronze tone. Her hair was long with a loose curl. She had an angelic voice and could sing in a way that would make you lose time. When she sang, young people would gather around her as if she was telling a story of an epic adventure throughout the heavens. She felt powerful and at one with herself when she sang. Dechanna didn't have friends, as the women in Galilee were jealous of her beauty, and while she was physically appealing to the men, they treated her in a disrespectful manner. Seemingly, you would assume that she suffered from depression, but she did not. Not only did she have a powerful imagination that would help her escape the judgment of society, but she also knew that her angels were forever present. She didn't understand this from a logical perspective. She could feel it within her and all around her. Okay, so when I asked about her love, or the one that they would talk about, it was like her boo or whatever, when Yesu was born. I didn't think he would be very important, so I just gave him a name, and I named him John. So John is the love of Yesu's mother. So essentially, Jesus' mother, her boo thing, his name, I named him John because I'd never asked his name because I didn't think he was going to be important in the story. But you will come to find out that Jesus' mother's boo was very significant in how Yesu was brought upon the earth. Yesu's Jesus, that's just how I know him. But yeah. So John, the love of Dechanna. When Dechanna met John, she was 20 years old and he was 23. She initially met him while gathering water. She was struggling in a moment and he helped her. What made this encounter with John different from other encounters with men is that after the interaction, John just left. He didn't stare at her. He didn't do anything disrespectful. No ill remarks or gestures. He was just kind. Darn you, airplanes! Dechanna ran into John 2 more times. During the third interaction, he asked if he could have permission to show her his heart and get to know hers. And she said yes. They met at the same place near the water where they had met the first time. They talked and watched the sunset. They met many times over the next couple of years in that same place. Dechanna was very open about her life and her complications with society. John was very understanding and he never pressured her to be introduced to her family. One night while looking at the stars, John expressed his love for the night sky and his admiration for the moon and the stars. John asked Dechanna which star was her favorite. She pointed to the brightest star in the sky. She then asked John if he thought the stars were alive. He said yes, and she asked why. He said to her, "Because I see stars in your eyes, and when I look at you, I feel alive." That was the moment that they fell in love, and it was sealed with a kiss. John was an exceptionally gifted handyman. He was great at fixing things and making something out of nothing. He became very popular for his gifted hands. He built them a house on the outskirts of town on the land that was left to him by his family. But John and Dechanna were virgins when they met. Both John and Dechanna were virgins when they met. However, Dechanna knew of the act because of her sisters would brag and talk about their interactions with men. They always teased her about being a virgin. John was aware of this and never forced himself on Dechanna. He honored her so much. They truly were best friends who shared a love that is only dreamed of. When Dechanna was 23, she gifted John with her virginity, and he did the same for her. It truly was a magical agreement between two magical beings. When it was over, she lay on his chest and hummed a beautiful song while he played in her hair. After a while, he kissed her goodbye and went into town to work. Dechanna relaxed a while and then went on to gather water. John was very intuitive. He could feel and sense things that his brain could not comprehend. When he arrived home that evening, something was wrong. He knew it before he even walked through the door. He walked into the house and seen Dechanna sitting in the corner with an overwhelming and frightened look on her face. John rushed to her and dropped to his knees at her feet. "What is the matter, my love? Tell me so I can fix it." He was under the impression that she had felt regret and shame from the moments they shared together earlier that day. She answered, "It's nothing. I know it's something. Share your heart with me, my love," John replied. "I was frightened in the dark of the night after seeing the sunset." John accepted her response without any further interrogation. The coming weeks were difficult for John. Something changed with Dechanna, and he couldn't put his finger on it. He was always respectful and understanding, nonetheless. Even when she no longer wanted to sit and watch the sunset when they gather water, gaze at the stars, or lay with him and share her physical self. After a while, things became normal again. Even though there were no sexual activity, John accepted the change with open arms. He was spending more time with Dechanna, and the magic that was once between them was revived. They truly were the epitome of best friends who shared a connection beyond the physical. 4.5 months after Dechanna and John first shared their bodies together, Dechanna discovered she was pregnant. This would seemingly be an exciting thing to share with John, but it was not. Something happened to Dechanna the day she gave herself to John. Her body was taken against her will by the water that day. She had experienced the bliss of an agreement between two people and the emptiness that comes with being taken by force in the same day. As much as she wanted to leave that moment in the past, it was still very real. With tears in her eyes and uncertainty in her heart, she told John why she acted so strange on that day. She told him with the expectation that he would treat her like people have treated her all her life, with disregard, blame, and judgment. But he did not do as she thought. He held her so close in that moment. He felt so small. He, he held her so close in that moment, yet he felt so small. How could I not protect the one I love? How could I be so oblivious to this? How could I let this happen? So many questions ran through his mind as he tried to hold it together for his love. He tried and tried and tried to apologize for not keeping her safe. The more he said it, the more he hated himself. With the shirt covered in tears, with his shirt covered in tears, of the love of love, with his shirt covered in tears, with his shirt covered in the tears of the love of his life, he looked at her and said, "I love you more than I can express. No matter what, I will continue to love you, and I will love our baby until my last breath." That night, Dechanna slept the most peaceful sleep she had ever slept in all of her days. John, however, couldn't sleep. He became so rageful about what had happened to his love. As much as he didn't want to, the next morning he asked her if she knew who did it to her. Hesitantly, she said yes, and she told him. It was a high-ranking official who was very established in the surrounding areas. John went on the hunt. While John knew who he was looking for, the official was not easily accessible. That's it. Chapter 6. Hello, beautiful people. Um, I guess I could keep reading. I will. So this is chapter 7. Maybe I should start over. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I think I'll start over for a new chapter. Unless,